I have seen crews hard at work trying to pick up some downed trees. Just look behind me. This tree completely snapped in half. We have just learned this afternoon Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, pleading not guilty through his attorneys to federal charges of withholding classified documents. Herman EMS crews are driving patients around in these ambulances. The problem is they're too compact. The new one they're going to buy is going to be about a foot wider. He was arrested and surrendered himself to federal authorities and fingerprinted in the Miami courthouse behind me. This change is going to ease some pressure off of pilots and give people more options while flying. We are learning tonight that Columbia police are investigating that deadly shooting. One man was shot and killed around 8:30 p.m. earlier tonight. This is where Boone County crews would normally put Ashland's recycling bin. But they told me during pickups in January, at least 25% of the recycling they found in here didn't belong, like styrofoam. Do you think if there was a mental health expert, some kind of mediator other than police present at the scene, that your son still would have been alive today? And today, the chairwoman, Hannah Kelly, says they discussed a formal complaint. We're learning tonight that complaint was filed against Speaker Dean Plocher. There were at least 15 people waiting on hold. Now that's important to note that was just to get in contact with the towing company to find them and to get help. And the icy road conditions on the road made it take even longer to get to safety and off the road. A freezing start to the work week, leaving roads slick.
We're having slide-offs right and left.
And drivers with hazardous conditions. Overnight, freezing rain left parts of mid-Missouri with these ice sheets blanketing roads and sidewalks.
I-70, please hold.
Mid-Missouri crews are trying to keep up.
Unlike snow, ice is almost impossible to drive on until they get it thawed out.
Chad Slate manages I-70 towing and recovery. He says instead of waiting the typical 15 minutes to get help,
You don't know where you're at?
crews couldn't get to stranded drivers for 45 minutes Monday.
All of our drivers are being safe and cautious. If our trucks wreck, well then, we obviously can't help other people.
AAA says calls for service are spiking for them too.
We've already been very busy assisting drivers with slide-offs during the snow and changing a lot of dead batteries out, especially with these extremely cold temperatures.
If you hit an icy patch while out on the road, AAA says don't panic.
You don't want to necessarily slam on the brakes, take your foot off the gas, try to steer into the direction of the skid. A lot of people want to, try to turn the wheel the opposite way to straighten out, but you're only going to be fighting the ice.
Both AAA and local crews agree safety is the main priority.
So we have to go nice and slow and be cautious and get to as many people as we can.
I saw at least 300 protesters fanned across Lowry Mall just across the street from Jesse Hall on MU's campus. Now, everything stayed peaceful, but students and community members say enough is enough.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Chants boomed across MU's campus.
We want to say that as students, we're not going anywhere.
Students and community members are calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war.
Genocide!
And highlighted their support for Palestinians.
So we stand here today to say enough is enough. And we stand here today to raise our voices with our fellow students and to show the people of Gaza that the students of Missouri are pro-Palestine through and through. We're pro-justice, we're pro-humanity, and we're pro-free speech.
A student group called Mizzou Students for Justice in Palestine organized Monday's demonstration. At least 300 protesters marched from Lowry Mall in front of Jesse Hall and ended in front of the Quad. Sadia Momita, a senior at MU, marched along the protest route, encouraging students in mid-Missouri to get involved.
It was part of my responsibility at the place that I love so much. I love Mizzou, that I want it to be better. And I want Mizzou to be a part of that change.
The demonstration comes just days after Green Party presidential candidate Dr. Jill Stein was arrested in St. Louis at a Washington University protest. Though the protest at MU wasn't quiet, it remained peaceful.
Free, free Palestine!
Tonight, Target 8 looks closer at two cases highlighting the challenges of getting resources that go beyond the badge.
She just had that kind of personality that as soon as you met her, you just loved her.
A symbol of respect for the dead blows in the wind outside of Ashley Cole's Columbia home. It helps Cole remember her friend, Elizabeth House.
And now in my life, I think that I've always lived in a place of advocacy, but now Elizabeth really kickstarted it to go faster, to help more.
Cole tells Target 8 that House, a U.S. Air Force veteran from Colombia, died by suicide in March. She says she asked police to do a welfare check on House.
He asked me if she had a weapon. I was like, I do believe she had a weapon.
Text messages and multiple phone calls between Cole and House on Thursday, March 14th, show some of their final conversations. Concerned, Cole says she called CPD at 9:25 p.m. to check on House.
They left. They didn't knock on the door. They didn't sound their lights.
Officers responded to House's residence again the next morning on March 15th at 10:14 a.m. Only this time, it was for an urgent welfare check. Cole says House was found dead that morning.
If we're going to a situation where there's an individual who may be armed with a firearm and they haven't committed a crime and they are only a threat to themselves, the safety priorities say that we are not going to jeopardize anybody, including the police, over that person.
Newly released police video in a separate incident shows Columbia police officers talking with Marquise Rivera on August 4th, 2023. He was a 22-year-old Columbia man that called 911 with suicidal thoughts.
But you don't want to go talk to anyone about it? I think it'd be a good idea.
Police say they spoke to Rivera and cleared the call.
You can't force a confrontation with that person. They're not committing a crime.
Rivera later called back and requested help again. Police say when officers returned, Rivera was armed and shot a gun multiple times in the air and in the direction of officers. Officers then shot and killed him. In the Rivera case, a special prosecutor appointed to review the internal investigation found no wrongdoing. Still, it highlights this.
In policy, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Police say every scene is different and officers need to have discretion to keep everyone safe.
Because at the end of the day, if private citizens can't help, police can't help, who is the person there?
CPD says they have a community mental health liaison and that most of their officers are given crisis intervention training, which is mandated by the state.